What's up, BoobTube? Josh here. Messy hair means we're working on the car on a Saturday. So, it's time to pull this apart and ignore wood, building raised gardens this year. And fix the front cover and the O-ring on the front cover. And hopefully get this thing back going good. And we'll push it out afterwards to check the timing on it. Because I have to pull the distributor, the CAS, and we'll go from there. But let's go ahead and get started with pulling the hood off and getting everything torn down that needs to be off of it so that we can pull the front cover. So let's get started. Future Josh here with a tidbit of information that I've learned now after perusing the forums and having some other people talk to me about my O-ring failures. So it turns out that there's some front irons from 86 to 88, which is what this is, which is an S4, that still use the small O-ring, landing on the front iron instead of the big one that requires the O-ring and the Teflon ring. So all that to say that this is probably going to happen again, which is kind of what I figured might be the case. But I have an alternative front cover gasket that works with all older 13B 12A RX7s before the FD. That is it's a Cosmo front cover gasket, and it is part number N390-10-502. You can look that up. Mazda sells it. Atkins Rotary sells it. Mazda Motorsport sells it. So one of the holes you don't use on the front cover, but it should alleviate my problems with this going forward. But just wanted to drop in and give that little tidbit before you watch the whole video and see me fixing the problem. Yet I'm going to be fixing it again. So on to the video, guys. Alright, so alternator's loosened up, water pump pulley's got to come off. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get these lower oil pan bolts out, especially this one right here. It is right across the lip of the bracket that holds the steering rack in. I think I'm actually going to have to unbolt the engine and kind of lift it a little bit to get to everything. So next I'm going to pull out the fan so that I've got plenty of room to work in front of, because it comes out real easy. It's 4 bolts and comes right out. I'm going to pull the CAS, and it looks like I'm going to at least pull 2 of the alternator bracket bolts. And then it's figuring out what to do with the oil pan. So let's get dug down into it, and we'll figure out as we go. I really don't want to have to pull the engine out of the car because it's a big pain in the ass to do that. So we're avoiding that at all costs, even though if it might take, an extra hour or so to do all of this to avoid that. So let's get started. When my pulley got hot, because the belt was sliding across it, it's worn my paint mark off, so I'm gonna redo the 0 mark. Alright, we're at a turning point here. It looks like it's going to be a bitch to get the front cover off with the water pump on. There's not an actual bolt. I don't know if y'all can see down in there. There's not an actual bolt that runs through the water pump into the front iron that passes through the front cover. but there's a large notch right here in the front cover that the water pump sits in front of. So I'm at the dilemma of, do I pull the water pump off and drain the water out so that I can pull the front cover off? And my thought process is yes, mainly because I don't want to get to the point to where I'm pulling the front cover off, I've got everything unbolted, and I realize I can't pull it off, and I have to drain the pump, and then it becomes a problem because the front cover is not sealed against the motor, and I'm draining water down into the oil pan, and then I can't save my reuse my oil. So, yeah, I think that's what's got to happen. That is disgusting. I really don't want to drain the water out of this thing. But the further I get into it, the more I'm realizing that I'm going to have to do some extra steps that I was hoping I could avoid. But oh well. Hopefully I'm going to drain it from the block, because there's a drain port. You can see the giant plug looking thing in the middle of the motor mount. That's actually a drain port for the block. So I'm going to drain it there and hopefully get it lower than the pump so I don't have to drain all my water out, and go from there. But that's gonna take a hot second, and I didn't want to do it. So let me get dove into that, and in the meantime, while I'm doing that, I'm going to pull the alternator bracket, at least a couple of bolts off, because I need those off, and I'm going to stick a wrench on that one bolt that I'm worried about, see if I can't get it loose enough to where I can get the cover off without having to lift the motor. So let's get going again. Woo! Alright, had some big progress made. Figured out a workaround so I didn't have to lift the engine. I actually tried to even jack it up, and I have it mounted so tightly in the car that with one side unbolted, it still wouldn't jack up and pivot on it. So I removed the power steering rack, steering rack, depowered steering rack, which is a big pain in the butt. I didn't film any of it because I literally had to 1/8 of an inch turn this thing for like 20 minutes. But I solved the problem. Some, idiot engineer that designed this car, that engineer is behind the camera, I fixed my solution, or fixed my problem for the next time. So this time when I go to put it back together, I cut a slot in the bolt so that I can use a screwdriver to thread it all the way in until it gets snug, and then I can use the wrench the last like quarter of a turn that it'll need to snug it up. But so with that, the rack is out of the way. I can get to the bolts on the front of the on the cover, which is good. I'm about ready to pull the water pump neck assembly off, which is probably going to leak some water because this portion of the neck is not going to drain back into the motor. So I'm assuming this is going to be full of water up to about here. So we're going to spill a little. I've got a pan down there to catch most of it. And once that's out of the way, I'll work on these bottom bolts. And then then comes the fun part of holding the clutch with a stick so that the front Torrington bearings and everything don't come out when I pull the bolt off the front of the eccentric shaft, so that I can pull the front cover. So lots of progress made. We're almost there, so let's get back to it. Oh, I need that shim. Damn it. Yep, there's the water. This is gonna come. Oh, there we go. All right. I'm gonna work on the lower bolts, and then when we come back, we'll be taking the front cover off. All right, ready to pull the front pulley. Get the oil pan bolts out, the oil feed line down, and my handy dandy stick to hold the clutch, and it's in there really good, so should be good. So now we get to do the dreaded front pulley, and hopefully nothing moves, and we should be good so we don't kill the front the thrust bearings. Let's get to it. Here we go. All right. Oh, and there's the spring. Yep. Now all of these. All right, there's one. Let me get the shorts. Don't fall. Okay. Let's see here. There it goes. All right. There it goes. There it goes. I'm gonna pry on this and get it out, hopefully without scarring up the mating surface. So that's gonna be the goal. All right. That was easier than I thought, and of course the front cover gasket has blown out again, as you can see, but I figured out, see, it's broke right there. I figured out why it still had oil pressure. The O-ring was dead, but the Teflon was still okay. So there's the O-ring. It actually looks like it broke a piece altogether out of it that I need to find. It's probably in the oil pan, and the Teflon was still together. So this is probably why it still had 60 pounds of oil pressure, but was slowly falling over time. So that was a good catch. Of course, the system did its job, which is, monitors the oil pressure and make sure it's okay. And yeah, looks like that O-ring is probably down. Well, I just paused, y'all. Looks like that O-ring's probably down in the oil pan, but so there's not much I can do about getting that bad boy out. For now, it'll just live down there. There's a screen on the oil pickup, and it probably won't ever get close to it. It'll probably, or it's floating around on top of the whatchamacallit plate that slows the oil draining down so it doesn't foam up. It might be sitting on top of that somewhere. So I'm gonna prep the new front cover gasket onto that bad boy so that we don't have open oil to the atmosphere while it's like this, and we're going to slap it back on there and be good to go for the next outing. So let's get into it. All right, so you know how I've been talking about the oil pressure being too high on the engine. So this is your bypass regulator. That's what really holds it at that high of an oil pressure. So we're gonna pull this out, and there's going to be a spring in here. And behind this spring, I'm going to find a couple of washers that I need to pull out, because they're the reason why it's got 130 something pounds of oil pressure. So let's see here. Let me get a magnet. If they're not in here, I'm going to be in a world of hurt, because that means that it's Oh, they are in there. They're just... I think they are. I do not see. Uh-oh. I could have sworn this had those O-ring, those washers in it. If that's the case, if it doesn't, then I'm just going to go put the FC one back in it and be done with it. And it'll still make more than it should, but not nearly as much. Yeah, because I don't see any washers. Did I not install those? I could have sworn I did. I'm gonna have to go back to previous videos and take a gander and see if I actually installed those. All right, be back. All right, so after further investigation of what I bought, I just bought the straight up FD front spring, and after going through and reading a lot on our old school forums, our overlords, they recommend just running the factory front spring. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick the factory one back in there. The pressure is still going to be much higher, but with the oil being cold and having a lot more viscosity, having a lot more flow, hopefully while it's cold it will bypass some of that pressure before it goes through the front control O-ring and keep from blowing it out. We'll see. I might be back here in a few months doing the same thing again, but and that's okay. At least I kind of have a system of how to get this out now and work on it, so I know what I have to go through to get to it, and it's honestly not too bad. But if it does it again, that means I got to get to the rear iron, which means that the motor's got to be it's a little bit more involved, and we'll just cross that bridge when we get there. So I'm going to go ahead and clean all these parts up real quick and throw this back together, and I'll keep that bypass spring for later on to see if it's, I'll hold on to it and see, but based on everything that I read, this really isn't going to change much on the pressure side of it, at least when it's hot. This should help while it's cold. So we're going to try it and see, and from there it's I got to finish cleaning up the bottom of the front cover, clean the bottom of the oil pan up, where this silicone runs, and slap it all back together, and hopefully we'll be test firing it here in a few hours, and we'll see how the oil pressure does then. So let's dive back into it. All right, boob tube, it's all back together. The only thing I have left to put back on is the fan, but that doesn't take but a second. So now it's time to install the additional hood pins, but I'll probably do that here later. My coolant overflow nub broke off, so hopefully I can find another one of those. Eric said that he might have one that I could use, but all that's left is to crank it over and time it. Make sure timing hasn't changed too much. Tighten that bad boy down and fire it up. Hopefully that different spring will at least lower the pressure while it's warming up, because since it's got a bypass regulator for the oil cooler, that'll allow it to drop the pressure while it's circulating through that before the oil is warmed up enough to circulate through the cooler. And once that happens, hopefully that bypass spring will close it, and then it'll make 100 pounds while it's warmed up and 100 pounds while it's cold. So we'll see if that works. If not, then I'll be doing this all over again, plus dropping the oil pan to remove the FD oil pressure regulator, since I seem to be, I don't know if maybe like my front cover isn't quite flat, and it's like it's got a bulge spot, because where the gasket blew out this time, actually let me show it to you. Yeah, here we go. So where the gasket blew out is the exact same spot that it did previously. So I don't know if the O-ring is dying and then it's spraying out the side and killing the gasket, or if the gasket's dying, and with the gasket dying, it's allowing the Teflon seal to swell, and then the O-ring dies. So, don't know, but hopefully that fixes my issue for now. And I know I never have another problem with it. If so, we'll be back fixing it again. But wasn't too bad. It only took me about 45 minutes to put it all back together versus, I don't know, several hours taking it apart, because I was trying to figure out how I would do this if I needed to do it. But next time, if it does happen again, I know I can do it snap with a couple fingers, and it's pretty easy. So, but yeah, so I'm gonna stop here for today, and we'll pick back up doing the new additional hood pins. So, deuces, guys. Me again, you just saw me. So I'm just gonna end the video off here with the engine all complete and back together. I'm gonna do the hood pins off camera, because there's a bajillion hood pin videos. I think there's actually a video of me doing the ones that are already on this car, but it's nothing. Drill a hole, blah, blah, go for it. So I'm just going to end it there so I can get this video edited and up for I'm trying to regularly upload on Wednesdays, if you haven't picked up. So that's the goal. And let me know what you think down below. Hopefully this fix lasts longer than one track day. Hopefully it lasts a year or longer, like the initial, when I initially built the motor, and I don't have any problems. So we shall see. But until next time, guys, deuces.